Ever been tempted by something that seemed too good to be true?
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Like finding a hidden treasure, promising riches
Okay.
beyond your wildest dreams? Well, that's what we're diving into today.
Oh,
A
wow.
tale of a glowing treasure that
Uh-huh.
turned into a nightmare.
Okay. So we're talking about the Goyana accident, right?
Uh,
1987.
yes, the Goyana accident in 1987. And what's so fascinating about this case
Mm-hmm.
is how a simple desire
Right.
for a better life could lead to such devastating consequences.
Yeah, it's a story that really highlights how quickly things can go wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And our deep dive today is based on a
Hmm.
History Daily podcast episode
Okay.
about this very accident.
Hmm.
It all started
Okay.
in an abandoned hospital in Goiânia, Brazil,
Oh, wow. Okay.
where two men, Roberto and Wagner,
Mm-hmm.
were scavenging for scrap metal,
Just trying to make a living, I guess.
hoping to make a quick buck. Their search led them to a forgotten radiotherapy room
Mm-hmm.
where they stumbled upon a large, imposing machine.
Yeah. So they found what, like an old X-ray machine or something?
This machine, abandoned and forgotten, seemed like a potential gold mine
Oh, I see.
to Roberto and Wagner.
Hmm.
They began dismantling it,
Makes
piece by piece,
Yeah.
until they uncovered a curious stainless steel canister.
So, like, what was in this canister?
Little did they know the canister
Yeah.
held a dangerous secret:
Oh, boy.
cesium-137, a radioactive material used in cancer treatment.
Cesium-137, that's pretty serious stuff.
Cesium-137 emits gamma rays,
Right.
a powerful type of radiation that can
Mm.
damage cells and lead to serious health problems.
Definitely not something you want to be messing around with.
Of course, Roberto and Wagner had no idea what they were dealing with.
Yeah. I mean, how could they?
They spent days trying to pry open the canister,
Oh, wow.
captivated by the thought of what riches it might contain.
So they were really determined.
And their persistence unfortunately paid off.
Oh, no.
Roberto eventually managed to create a small hole in the canister,
Oh.
revealing a fine white powder
Okay.
that emitted a strange ethereal blue glow.
A blue glow. That's pretty unusual.
That blue glow,
Yeah.
as captivating as it was,
Yeah.
signaled imminent danger.
Oh, wow. So they had no idea.
Roberto even tried to light the powder on fire,
Oh, my goodness.
thinking it might be gunpowder.
You've got to be kidding me.
It's a chilling reminder that the unknown can be both alluring and incredibly dangerous.
Absolutely. And it's a reminder of how easily radiation poisoning can be overlooked.
Yeah.
Those early symptoms, fatigue, nausea, vomiting, they can easily be mistaken for something less serious.
Exactly. Roberto started feeling sick,
Yeah.
but dismissed it as something he ate.
Figures.
He eventually decided to sell the mysterious canister to a local scrapyard owner,
Oh, no.
De Vere, for a mere $25.
So it changed hands.
That seemingly insignificant transaction would set off a chain of events
Wow.
that would change the lives of many in Goiânia forever.
That's incredible.
De Vere was instantly mesmerized by the blue glow emanating from the canister. He took it home, believing it might be some kind of precious gemstone
Okay.
or even a supernatural artifact.
That's kind of wild.
Little did he know,
Yeah.
he had brought a silent and deadly threat into his home.
It's just hard to believe they had no clue what they were dealing with.
And this is where the story takes a truly heartbreaking turn. De Vere, just like Roberto, was completely oblivious to the danger he was in.
Right.
And worse, he began sharing his glowing treasure with his
No.
family and friends.
Oh, man. That's just awful.
Can you imagine the scene? The excitement, the wonder, as people gathered around this strange and beautiful object,
Right.
completely unaware of the invisible danger
Mm.
lurking within.
It's a chilling thought.
De Vere's wife, Maria, even rubbed the powder on her skin,
Oh, no.
and their 6-year-old niece was allowed to play with it.
It is heartbreaking.
De Vere even gave some of the powder to his friend
Oh.
to make a ring. It's hard to fathom the innocent curiosity
Yeah.
that would soon turn into a tragedy of immense proportions.
Just a complete lack of awareness.
And as days turned into nights, a sinister truth began to unfold.
Oh. What happened?
People who had come into contact with the glowing powder
Yeah.
started to experience a range of alarming symptoms.
Like what kind of symptoms?
Maria, in particular,
Sure.
began to suffer from severe vomiting, dizziness, and lesions on her skin.
Those are some serious symptoms.
But just like with Roberto,
Yeah.
the initial diagnosis was far from the mark.
So they still didn't suspect radiation.
Doctors suspected food poisoning or some kind of allergic reaction.
Wow.
They had no reason to suspect radiation poisoning, especially in such an ordinary setting.
It's unimaginable.
It's a chilling reminder
Mm-hmm.
that even in seemingly safe environments, hidden dangers can lurk,
Mm-hmm.
and the consequences can be devastating.
It's a powerful reminder to be aware of our surroundings.
And as Maria's condition continued to deteriorate, her intuition told her that something was terribly wrong.
Yeah, you can't ignore those instincts.
She couldn't shake the feeling
Yeah.
that the mysterious canister
Right.
was somehow connected to her illness.
Oh, wow. This is getting intense. It's almost like she knew, you know?
Yeah. You know what? Maria's intuition
Uh-huh.
proved to be tragically accurate.
Oh, wow.
Driven by a mother's instinct and a growing sense of dread, she decided to take matters into her own hands.
So what did she do?
She carefully wrapped the canister
Okay.
in a plastic bag and, with the help of her brother,
Okay.
took it to a local clinic.
So she finally decided to get it checked out.
This seemingly simple act of courage
Yeah.
would prove to have a turning point in the entire saga,
I see.
a moment that finally broke through the wall of ignorance and disbelief.
It's amazing how sometimes it just takes one person to speak up.
At the clinic, the doctor, initially skeptical of Maria's concerns, agreed to examine the canister.
So they actually took her seriously.
He had no specialized equipment to detect radiation, but something about the object, perhaps its unusual weight
Okay.
or the faint blue glow that still emanated from it, piqued his curiosity.
Oh, that's interesting. So even without the proper tools, something felt off.
He decided to contact a physicist friend who, upon hearing the description of the canister and its contents, immediately recognized the potential danger.
Wow. So it was the physicist who figured it out?
The physicist urged the doctor to get the canister to a specialized laboratory for testing as soon as possible. And within hours, the horrifying truth was confirmed.
Oh.
The canister contained cesium-137,
Wow.
and Maria, along with her family and many others,
Oh, man.
had been exposed to dangerous levels of radiation.
That's just devastating.
Think about the sheer scale of this realization. A single canister, carelessly discarded and then passed from person to person, had the potential to contaminate an entire city.
It's like something out of a nightmare.
The news of the radioactive contamination spread like wildfire, sending shockwaves through Goyana and beyond.
I can't even imagine the panic.
What followed was a frantic scramble to contain the damage, a race against time to identify those who had been exposed and to prevent further contamination.
So what do they do? How do you even begin to clean up something like this?
Authorities had to check over 25 square miles of land for contamination. This meant they had to test the soil, water, and even buildings to see if they had dangerous levels of radiation. Imagine the fear and uncertainty that gripped the city during those initial days. Thousands of people lined up for testing, desperate to know if they had been exposed to the invisible threat.
That's terrifying, just the not knowing.
Homes were evacuated, streets were cordoned off, and teams of specialists in hazmat suits descended upon the city.
Like a scene from a movie.
Armed with Geiger counters and other equipment to track down the deadly radioactive material. It was a scene straight out of a science fiction movie.
Wow.
Yet, for the residents of Goyana, it was all too real.
It's hard to fathom what they must have gone through.
And sadly, the human cost of this accident was all too real as well.
Right.
Maria, her 6-year-old niece, and 2 scrapyard workers who had come into contact with the powder all succumbed to radiation poisoning, their lives tragically cut short
So sad.
by his preventable disaster. Their deaths serve as a stark reminder of the insidious nature of radiation.
Yeah.
It's a silent, invisible killer that can leave lasting damage, both physically and emotionally.
A tragedy on so many levels.
The decontamination process was a monumental task.
I can imagine. What did that even involve?
Homes had to be demolished.
Oh, wow.
Contaminated soil had to be removed and safely stored.
That's a huge undertaking.
And thousands of people had to undergo extensive medical screening and treatment. The Goyana accident had a profound impact, not just on the city itself, but on the way the world viewed the risks of radiation exposure.
It definitely raised awareness.
It highlighted the importance of proper safety protocols, the need for clear communication and accountability, and the devastating consequences that can arise from a lack of awareness and understanding. The world watched in horror as the story unfolded.
I remember hearing about.
And the lessons learned from Goiânia reverberated far beyond the borders of Brazil.
Yeah.
It prompted a reassessment of global safety standards for radioactive materials, leading to stricter regulations.
That makes sense.
And more comprehensive training programs.
Right.
But beyond the policy changes and technical advancements, the Goiânia accident serves as a timeless parable.
Right.
A cautionary tale that reminds us of the fragility of human life and the importance of responsible stewardship of our planet and its resources.
And it makes you think, how often does this kind of thing happen, you know?
Yeah, it's a sobering thought. How many other potentially hazardous materials are out there just waiting for a similar chain of events?
Exactly. I mean, it's scary to think about.
The podcast mentioned that the hospital owners actually tried to retrieve the equipment months before Roberto and Wagner stumbled upon it.
Oh, really?
But they were caught up in a legal dispute over the land, and their efforts were ultimately unsuccessful.
So it's almost like a system failure too, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It highlights how sometimes it's not just about individual responsibility, but also about these systemic failures.
I see what you mean.
There were gaps in communication, a lack of clear protocols for dealing with abandoned hazardous materials, and perhaps even a lack of awareness of potential dangers. What can we learn from this?
Well, I think it's multifaceted. Obviously, stricter regulations to ensure these materials are properly secured and accounted for. Better training for those who handle these materials so they understand the risks or know how to respond.
But beyond that, it seems like public awareness is key, right? If Roberto de Ver and the others had known what they were dealing with,
absolutely,
this whole tragedy might have been avoided.
Knowledge is power. I mean, it could have literally saved lives in this case.
So true. It's not about living in fear, but about being informed and being curious.
Right.
And asking questions.
Asking questions, exactly.
If something seems unusual or potentially dangerous, it's always better to err on the side of caution.
I think that's a really important takeaway from all of this.
We can't always predict what life will throw our way.
Nope.
But we can equip ourselves with the knowledge and awareness to make informed decisions, especially when it comes to potential hazards.
And it makes you wonder, could technology help prevent future tragedies like this? Imagine like a world where anyone could instantly identify a hazardous material using their smartphone.
That would be amazing. Like a universal danger detector.
Right. We've come a long way since 1987 in terms of technology.
Yeah.
We have AI, advanced sensors, all these incredible things. Maybe in the future, curiosity won't have to come with such a high price.
That's a future I think we can all get behind. This deep dive into the Goiânia accident has been fascinating and deeply unsettling. It's a story about the human cost of ignorance, but it's also a story about resilience, the power of knowledge, and the potential for technology to help protect us from the invisible dangers of the world.
Absolutely. And I think it reminds us to never underestimate the importance of asking questions and staying informed. The world is full of wonders, but it's also full of potential hazards. And by understanding those hazards, we can better protect ourselves and those around us.